I'm Tony Frashina, and I am working for Walkgrove, and this little session is about reality. It's about grabbing your learners and keeping them where you want them. And it's obvious. You will learn nothing new, so you might as well go. Because I think you know all this. So I'm going to just put it to you to see if you agree. And if you do agree, all of a sudden, we're going to have some fantastic e-learning. Hands up who designs e-learning at all. Anyone design? Oh, loads. So you know all this, so you can go. Hands up if you commission or buy e-learning. You're going to find out lots. And you'll go into your next commissioning meeting, hopefully, a little bit more demanding. Hands up who uses e-learning ever, is ever a user of it. Hopefully you'll, keep your hand up if you think e-learning is fantastic. Fantastic. Put your hand up if you think e-learning is sometimes a bit dull. What? How can it be? With all this stuff going on, how can e-learning be dull? Surely we know enough to make it wonderful. Let's see what I'm on about. This is e-learning. This is the model of e-learning. The traditional is a bad word for this. It's the hose pipe. Here's the information. We'll cover you in information. You'll hear it once, or read it once, or perhaps hear it and read it once, and you'll remember it. And on the basis of that, you're going to learn, you're going to go off and change your behavior, and the business will be happy. So much of this stuff, it must be good. But of course it's not. It doesn't work. You can't smother people with information and expect them to absorb it. This sort of model, call it that, is really a version of this. It's basically a lecture. We'll give you lots of information. You will hear it. You will learn it. You will be engaged. You will be interested. And off you go. And everything's wonderful. Hands up who's been to university. Keep your hand up if you can remember everything that you were told. It's rubbish, isn't it? Where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? What I'm going to think about, what I'll ask you to think about today, is where did we go wrong and what should we be doing instead? Right. Why do we learn? These chaps have learned to kill mammoths. They do it for an extremely simple reason. They have to survive. Learning is absolutely fundamental to being a human being. You can't stop people learning. Well, we do quite well in this industry, actually. But learning is basic to survival. Okay? Children aged 1, 2, 3, 4 will learn and learn and learn unless you try to stop them. Let's see how people have learned in the past. This isn't an ancient culture because there's a little chalet in the corner, but you can pretend it's an ancient culture. We didn't evolve with schools. We didn't evolve with teachers. We didn't evolve with lectures, with information being presented. We evolved for millions of years like this, by being in the world, by being surrounded by the world, by being surrounded by all the things we need to learn about, and by learning about them. You just go out there and you do the things you're meant to do. You do things. You learn by doing things. It's really simple. I told you wouldn't learn anything. It's really simple. You're out there with your parents, because everyone's in little family groups, and you learn. You can't help it. The world comes at you. You've got to respond. If you don't respond, you die. That's where we've come from. So that's quite a fundamental lesson. We learn by being in the world and by doing things in the world. So how do we learn? Well, here are some subject matter experts being trained. These are learning on the job. They're learning to do what they do. They're practicing hunting. But actually, they're just lion cubs playing, aren't they? But clearly, they're practicing what they need to do to learn to be lions. And when they do it enough, they go out hunting. But in doing this, what are they doing? They're rehearsing, they're repeating, they're making mistakes, they're doing it in their own time, and they're doing it when they want to, as much as they want to, and they stop when they want to. I hope you're making little mental leaps to e-learning here, but anyway, we'll come back to all this. And they get feedback, lots of rich feedback. You get feedback when you're fighting a lion cub, because if you get it wrong, you get scratched. So you learn to be a good fighting, hunting lion. And they play, and they play, and they play. And of course, given that evolution wants us to practice and play, it makes it pleasurable. So we enjoy playing. Because obviously, if something you like, you do it more. So play is connected with our pleasure centers. Obviously, what it would be. Because it works. And it's had a long time to develop. Of course, I'm being, what's the word, anthropomorphic. You know, we're not really like this, are we? We're not like this. We're nothing like this. It's just working. We're not like this. If you've... hands up who's got a boy and a girl. Keep your hand up if the boy likes fighting more than the girl. Most of you kept your hands up. There's a big difference. I'm not saying that it's that simple. We're mammals, just like the lion cubs. We've grown, we've evolved to do the same thing. Our behavior is the same. And I've got fighting here, but it could be any play. We want, as children, to practice the things that we're going to do as adults. I'm not saying these people end up fighting with sticks all the time, but the principle is there. It's the same as the lion cubs. You practice, you rehearse, you do all those things like you do in school. No. Hang on, I'm confused now. Schools aren't quite like this, are they? Schools are a bit different. Schools are a little bit more like hose pipes, actually, where you're told to learn this now. I would like you all to now write a poem. That's what happens in a school. Write a poem. Don't look out the window, write a poem. You get told off for not writing the poem. That's what schools are like. This is what real learning is like. Let's have a look. All the way through thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years of evolution, we've learned by doing, by discovering, and so on. It's deeply, deeply ingrained, okay? I mean, you know, this child, by being surrounded in their own reality, has learned to become a real expert, I would guess. It's a Shutterstock image, but I'm guessing he has a real expert in dealing with horses, because that's what they have to do in their life. It's learning on the job. It's learning surrounded by your own reality. We've evolved in small family groups. We still live in small groups. Even in the middle of big cities, we are surrounded by small groups. You create them for yourself. You might be living in a city of 10 million, but you have a small group of people who you associate with, even if they're scattered. And this is the model that we come from. And this is where we learn. We talk to each other, we communicate with each other, we're intensely social. And we love to know about each other. Being social, we're interested in what other people are doing, what they're saying, our place in the hierarchy, who's in, who's out. And we gossip. We gossip and we gossip and we gossip. We love gossip. Gossip is a social glue. It keeps us together. We're deeply programmed to like gossip because it tells us about what's happening in our group. All right? is this just a human thing? Well, I'm bound to say no. It's a primate thing. It's actually more than a primate thing, but primates are good at communicating, and they're gossiping. They're finding out about each other. They're bonding. We do the same. We like gossip so much. We like finding out what people are doing so much that we even like it when it's not even true. Even fiction is deeply interesting. And so we have books which are about people or things that may never exist, but we are so programmed to liking, following what is going on in people's lives that, you know, we've got a whole culture of literature, and people love books. This brings us back to this. If you're sitting in the savannah every night, all your life, what do you do when it's dark and you're sitting around the fire, hiding from the leopards? You talk, and you talk, and you talk. And you probably watch the stars as well. And of course, as you know, ancient cultures have extremely deep oral traditions where storytelling has a major part. So, storytelling and being interested in stories is part of our reality. And we're actually quite addicted to stories. There's an addict, probably been told to go to sleep. So he's a fiction addict. That's a Class A drug. And I could have put any number up there. Okay, hands up EastEnders fans. Coronation Street. Emmerdale. Archers. Oh no, it's terrible. Are there any more I don't know about? I'm behind the times. But we love all this stuff. Or Casualty. So how many do you like? We are very, very, very interested in other people's lives. There's a whole multi-billion-dollar industry based around storytelling. Obviously, the whole film industry is about stories, and we are very, very fascinated in them. So what's all this got to do with learning? Well, if you look at some of the buzzwords that go around, there's just a few. We bump into all sorts of these in the course of our work. You could add any number of extra ones there. All of these relate back to what I've been saying. All of them do. You know, we talk about scenario-based stories. It's about building real life. We talk about social learning. It's about the gossip. We talk about action mapping. It's about doing, engaging, being emotionally involved, which links to our social behavior. Relevant, being surrounded by what you do, by your world, and so on. These are all things that are important, considered important in learning, and that relate to where we've come from as a species. And I think that keeping in mind our need to learn in a context by doing, and our need and our love of stories, because it's about gossip, if you put all that into your learning, actually, you haven't got much else to do apart from getting the content right. So why does it all go wrong? Probably because people aren't thinking of where we're coming from. I suppose the most important is learner-centered. If you haven't got the learner at the center of your learning, you forget all this stuff. You have the organization and the business at the center. Now, you can argue that the two are the same thing, but clearly that doesn't always work. So, enough of this waffle. I want to show you some examples of where this works. And the first one is this one. Oh, great stuff. Don't work with chimpanzees or CDs. Start again. Have any of you come across an award-winning piece of e-learning called Lifesaver? Not that many. It's fantastic. It's not a Walkgrove product, but actually we do a lot of the same stuff. This is just really big budget. It It won, oh, I don't know, 4 or 5 golds at the last e-learning awards in lots and lots of different categories. It was done by the, I'm waiting for, oh, is it? Let's try that. Oh, no. It's going wrong. It worked before. Start again. Not you. It's, there was, a few years ago, there was a series of adverts about resuscitating people, done by Vinnie Jones. You come across that? It was about £2 million budget of a load of adverts designed to increase public awareness of the importance of acting quickly if people had a heart attack, that sort of thing. Well, they wanted to do the same again, but they didn't have as much money. And they wanted to update it, and they wanted it as a piece of e-learning. And a chap called Martin Percy, a film director called Martin Percy, had this designed this concept, and it was just an absolute winner. So I think a few minutes spent on this will tell you a lot. And basically what it does is it takes a lot of the ideas I've been talking about, puts them into a short piece of e-learning. When it's finished, its credits go. Not going to work. While it's thinking. I'll describe it while it's thinking. It's video-based with quite high production values. Oh, menu, hooray. And there we go. Let's do Jake. Series of stories, a series of scenarios. You don't need the audio.
What are you talking about?
I got two.
I was
do need
waiting
the audio.
open and you weren't even there. David set it up for me. You weren't there.
I didn't set it up for
always
you.
looking
I'll
for
turn it down.
All right, okay, you're a one-man army, that's right.
Right. So, you, the learner, are you, the member of the public? And the desired performance is responding quickly in an emergency where someone has a heart attack. So, it's presented as a story. That's one of my ticks from before. Gets you interested. Clearly, it's using the soap opera, drama, documentary style approach, but that's where it comes from. You're in a situation, you have to act. It's not a series of bullet points about what to do. You are in a situation, you have to act. Okay? The idea of this is to get people to respond quickly and to get them to absorb the information quickly. So it's all done by action. It's also against the clock. And I'm running out of time. Sorry, it's actually against the clock, so I'll be quick. So you get questions fired at you really quickly. You get feedback to your questions, and then you see the feedback. You act. You respond. It's completely immersive. It's not that difficult a concept, is it? It's completely immersive. Sorry, I've got to act, because otherwise he dies. It's mimicking the real thing. It's real life. It's as close as you. Sorry, I've got to interrupt. I'm going to get it wrong. I've got it wrong. My score goes down. I'll get it right. This is as much time as you get in real life to save the person. It's wonderful as a piece of learning because you just get sucked in. You don't think you're being trained. You just think you're doing something. Whoa, sorry. And on. The bit I love even more comes quite quickly here, because in the little bit of blurb running up to this, I said that technology can really help. Well, clearly we've got video technology here, which is very good. What I love about this is it uses some of the touchscreen type technology as well. So we actually, if this is multi-platform, if you do it on a touchpad, you can pull his head back by swiping across the screen, and I can drag here. So I've got to get his head right. Whoops. He's dying. There you go. Get his head right. You've got to tip his head back. Then when it comes to the breathing, you can time how quickly you blow into him, and so on. And it's done very... Sorry. Oh, God, he's dying. And on. It's a beautiful blend of available technologies. Oh, sorry, I didn't get it right. See, I didn't get it right. Feedback. Beautiful blend of good technology used appropriately to match the real job. And I think it's fantastic, it's no surprise it won so many awards. It ticks so, it won across all sorts of categories. Okay. Should we go? Leave him. You got the point, haven't you? Next. Trouble with that is a £250,000 budget. And the actors got paid almost nothing. So the money went somewhere. It's not easy to do that. You've got to spend a lot of money. So why bother? Well, what we do is we take elements from that, we simplify it, but we still tick the boxes about being in the learner's domain, in the learner's head. And here's a short piece. This is for Transport for London. It's one we did. It's meant to address the problem of cyclists being knocked down and killed by lorries turning left. And old-style training is watch a video, get a presentation, and so on and so forth. What we've got here is it's immersive. It's quite straightforward. There's an accident, and we analyze the accident. We look at it from different points of view. This is from the cyclist's point of view. The training is for lorry drivers, but an important aspect of the lorry drivers' knowledge, I suppose, understanding, is understanding what cyclists do. So here we see this is just an animation. It's not video or anything. We see what happens when the lorry turns left and hasn't noticed the cyclist. It's quite simple in concept, but of course what it's doing is it's doing all that stuff I was talking about before. It's real, it's in context, it's what you do. It's not giving information, it's active. And I could go on with this, that you get all sorts of different people's perspectives about the incident and so on. And one more, which is pared down even further, and actually has had wonderful feedback. Child protection awareness for British Council. British Council come into contact with hundreds of thousands of children across the world in all their educational programs. And child protection is a major problem, or a major concern. And when we came along to do this, they said it's got to be e-learning, mostly because of budget issues. Problem is, they said, e-learning's boring. And then they gave us masses of policy documents and guidance documents and said, here you go, this is it. Do it, e-learning. Never mind, we'll kind of turn away, and when it's finished, let us know. And we said, no, well, we kind of bridled at the idea that e-learning was boring, and we turned it completely on its head. So what your people need, we think, is not lots and lots and lots of information. They simply need to change their attitude to observing what goes on around them, the reality aspect. And of course, what we tapped into was the whole story element. And this is done a lot in child protection, so it's not rocket science, but the point is it's been through something like 25,000 British Council employees, and they are very highly engaged with it, and they really think it's made a difference to their awareness of child protection. Let's just take one. It's very simple. It's a series of stories. It's just simple pictures adapted from photos and a number of stories where things happen. But of course, when they happen to you because you're put into the story. You've got a girl in a summer school. I'm not sure if you can hear it. I've turned the volume down. It's all audio as well. And it's really simple. It's just speech bubbles. These are spoken. It's a little unfolding story. Technologically, there's not a lot there at all. So it doesn't have to be whizzy. Things happen. Situation unfolds. And then you're asked to address things that happen. And in this case, you know, she's actually being physically abused, beaten by her father, and she doesn't want to leave the summer school. and she starts clinging onto the teacher, etc., etc. We devised 7 or 6 or 7 stories that related very, very, very closely to normal experiences in British Council. And because people understood them, they recognized them, they identified with them, they were stories that appealed emotionally, they were in the right context, they got people making decisions about what to do, and it does all link to policy. You can occasionally see a screen where the subject matter experts have put some policy in, because instead of all this sparse stuff, you get masses of information. You must do all these things. So, but never mind, they have to have their way. And that's it. It's easy if you know what principles you're following. Reality, context, learner-centered, get people thinking the way they need to think on the job. Keep the information very sparse. They don't need it because they'll never remember it. I think I've finished. Thank you. I do have some time for questions if about these or anything else. Anyone? I told you it was obvious, you see, you don't need, there's no questions. Of course you say, well, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? There you go.